against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you.
Now I need a signature in your paper.
I'm grateful to be here today in front of all you, and I'm mostly grateful for Mayor Gonzalez for giving me this opportunity to be able to represent the youth and being able to be the next leader to be guiding this next generation. And I'm honestly honored, and thank you all for being here, and thank you.
Congratulations.
And this is the part where you tell friends and family to take you out to eat and celebrate with you. Have a great day. You can stay if you'd like. Don't feel obligated to stay for our meeting. Stay as long as you want. At this point in time, I'd like to move to item number 4 on our agenda, which is our consent calendar. In particular, if there are any amendments to our consent calendar. Are there any items that people would like to pull? And I can't tell if this is from before, so I apologize, Councilmember Aguilar, if it is from before.
I would like to move the consent calendar.
Okay, so I've got a motion from Councilmember Aguilar to move the consent calendar. Councilmember Blue.
Second.
Okay. At this point in time, we don't have any items pulled from the consent calendar, but I'd like to take public comment if we have any.
Mr. Mayor, there is no public comment online or in person.
So I will close public comment, come back to my council. Is there any discussion, further discussion? Seeing no indication of such, let us move to a vote.
Councilmember Bowen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baloo, or Vice Mayor Simon, so sorry.
Yes.
All votes are in. Motion passes 7-0. Vice Mayor Simon, yes. Councilmember Baloo, yes. Councilmember Bowen, yes. Councilmember Aguilar, yes. Councilmember Azevedo, yes. Councilmember Viveros Walton, yes. And Mayor Gonzalez, yes.
So that covers items 4, 5, and 6 on our agenda, and our consolidate in our new agenda, at least as approved by the Rules Committee, we will put all of that into one item to kind of try to simplify our agenda. For item number 7, there was no closed session today. Item number 8, do we have any reports from either city manager or city attorney?
No report.
Okay, seeing none, let's move to public comment. This is the opportunity for our public to comment on items that are not on our agenda. And to do so, we, as the clerk identified, we've got 30 minutes set aside now. If we need more time, we will continue after item 15. So do we have any cards for items that are not on our agenda?
Yes, we do. We have one public comment. Karen Fernandez. That's okay. Yes. Yep, you can just speak directly into the microphone.
Okay. Hi, my name is Karen Fernandez, and I have lived in District 1 for 20 years. And for transparency, as I go through this conversation, it is not our intention to eliminate the neighborhood watch. It is an important part of community policing. We do want to help update so it's resilient, sustainable program for engaging more residents in problem identification and solving at the neighborhood level. Traditional neighborhood programs divide the city into neighborhoods composed of blocks. We have 941 streets. That, in my calculation, is going to be more than 1,000 neighborhood blocks that we would need. That's not sustainable. It's too big. So where did he go? There we are, Councilman Pete. When I was having a conversation with him, came up with a great idea. I was thinking about breaking it up by district, and he suggested by police beats. There's 7 of them. And that works well because then we can get closer to our police beat officers and have them more involved. I have met with most of you. I've met with most council members, the mayor, and over 100 residents in my research in what we're doing. And during the conversations, great ideas were proposed as the ones that I just talked. There are 2 major areas that we want to update. First is moving to the police beats. Second, to reduce the financial burden on the city. I have created an LLC and a nonprofit in the process, which is in the process of being created. The name is Community Action Council. The nonprofit will help with the funding of the program to an extent. And residents can donate so they're able to partake in this. So everybody in the city has a path, irregardless of what their abilities are. The next steps is April 9th. I have a meeting with Jennifer Crosby and her team. We're going to be engaging. And to wrap up, there's only a few changes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, there is no other public comment.
Okay, so thank you for that update and thank you for meeting with Ms. Crosby. With that, I will close public comment and move to item number 10. There's no public hearing today. We're grouping 11 with 15. So we don't have presentations today, do we? We do not. So now let's get to the meat of our meeting, or the main substance of our meeting. We want to be all inclusive here and go to item 13A. And this is going to cover adopting 2 resolutions to initiate a Proposition 218 process. We've got Special Projects Coordinator Cynthia Battenberg, who will introduce our item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here this evening with Rick Simonson, Vice President at Hilton Farm, HF&H, who's assisting us with the stormwater fee. And tonight we're going to take you through the next step in this process. So we'll go through kind of the background and the overview that we've provided in the past and bring you up to date to our current situation. As you I'm sure know by now that we are proposing to amend the stormwater fee because we need to do 3 really critical things. One is we need to keep the trash out of our stormwater system and out of the bay. The other is we need to maintain and repair our infrastructure. And building on that, we have significant, very high priority and high priority projects throughout the city, about $30 million worth of projects that we really need to invest in to reduce flooding and again, keep trash out of the bay. Our current fee was adopted in 1993 and has not been increased since that time. It generates about $1 million a year, and our costs are understandably increasing significantly, as are our compliance responsibilities. In last year, the council directed staff to proceed with the Prop 218 process for a stormwater fee increase. And we've brought on HF&H as well as Schaff and Wheeler to assist in the process. In February, the draft storm drain master plan, which is the foundation for the rate setting, was presented to the Facilities and Transportation Committee, as well as some preliminary information on the fee study. And last month, Rick Simonson and I were here to present that draft stormwater fee study and review the process. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Simonson, who will proceed with continue the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Again, Rick Simonson, HF&H Consultants. As we undertook this process, the first step was to build off the storm drain master plan that Schaff and Wheeler had developed. They mapped the entire city's storm drain system and really did an assessments need to ascertain where the elevated areas of flood risks are and consider climate adaptability, and then recommended some projects they identified about $80 million of projects from low to very high priority. So we've built off of that to develop our recommended stormwater fee amendment. So this slide here just gives you a flavor of those capital projects on the left-hand side, which have been ranked again from very high down to low, about $80 million worth of capital projects. In addition to the capital needs, there are ongoing operating and maintenance costs that need to be covered on an annual basis. The most significant is street cleaning, keeping that trash out of the storm drain system at about $780,000 per year. So a total just to maintain the system as is about $2 million per year. As mentioned earlier, we have laid out what the O&M costs are on the left-hand side, as well as the capital improvement in total. But staff has been diligent to look for alternative revenue sources, so not all coming from an amended stormwater fee. Most of the contributions are looking to come from Caltrans, about $2.8 million, and $1 million from a state grant to help with the trash capture devices, which are part of the very high priorities. You need to meet a deadline from the regional permit by June of 2025 to install these devices. We brought to you back on March 4th 2 options for funding all the full $80 million in projects or just the very high and high. And we received the feedback to proceed with funding the very high and high project needs. So in total, for the O&M costs and the capital contribution to these capital projects, we're looking to increase the fee that's currently generating about 1.1 million up to 3.2 million. So the first step is to establish that revenue need, and then we need to calculate the rates equitably to each parcel and each use of that parcel. So the first step is to calculate what we call single family equivalent. So this is a baseline to which all properties are then compared to develop their rate. And it's based on looking at the parcels within the city and getting the average impervious surface area. That's where the runoff, the rain hits and makes its way into the stormwater. We do this for single family and then compare every other property against that as the baseline. And that leads to the rates that we have developed here. Single family residential currently just has one charge, but in analyzing the data, we know there's a wide range of parcel sizes, so contributions to the stormwater system vary. So we looked at 3 different levels: small, medium, and large single family residential charges. So you'll see with the small charges, they're going up or just down slightly compared to the annual current charge of $26.33. Medium size single family parcels will see an increase of about $2 per month, and large parcels about $4 per month. We are seeing more significant increases on the non-single family residential. It's based on a per acre charge, again, compared to the typical single family parcel. So we're here tonight not to adopt these rates, but there is a process. This first step in the process is a public notice is to be mailed to all property owners, letting them know of the proposed fee change. as well as where they can find information about the fee change. So once those notices are mailed, no earlier than 45 days, you can move on to step 2 if there's not a majority protest. And a majority protest would be 50% of the parcels plus one that actually send in a protest. If there is not a successful protest, council can move on to step 2, which requires actual ballots to be mailed to all the parcel owners. And at that time, they can vote yes or no and return that ballot. At that point, those ballots are counted. And just from those that are submitted, if there's a majority yes, you can adopt the fees. If the majority is no, they cannot be adopted. So I've talked about some of the next steps. Let me put some dates to that. So we're here today requesting authorization to mail those notices, which will go out by this Friday to allow for the 45-day period before the council can hold a public meeting to count those protests. Again, assuming there is not a majority protest, ballots will be mailed out to all property owners, and they'll be mailed out no later than May 24th, again, to allow a 45-day period before they're counted. So tonight, again, we're looking for a resolution declaring the intent to initiate and proceed to obtain approval of the amendment of the city stormwater fee, which is a property-related fee. And second, a resolution adopting the ballot procedures should there not be a majority protest for the city's proposed stormwater fee amendment and approving the stormwater fee report. With that, I'll pause, answer any questions.
At this point in time, we will take questions from council members. I know that we have had some discussion, both facilities and here in our chambers, but there may still be questions. So I will begin with Councilmember Viveros Walton with questions, please.
I just have a really basic question. What's the vehicle to collect the fee? Is it through property tax or?
It is on the property tax roll, so it's an annual charge.
Got it.
Councilmember Azevedo, please.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. My question is about the street sweeping. We spend $780,000 on street cleaning. How much is that is street sweeping? You guys know, by any chance, the street sweepers?
Yeah, the majority of that is street sweeping, the residential and the commercial areas.
Because, yeah, we need to get a better robust system on that. I mean, we could talk about that later, but we have between 10 and 20 signs in the whole city, like 941 streets. And so nobody knows when to move their cars. They don't know when. So yeah, we need to do something, whether we have them move it, whether they pay a fine or we give them warning, that's something for us to discuss. But yeah, okay. Thank you. That's my question.
So seeing no further questions, I'd like to go to public comment on this item, please. I can't hear you. Yes.
One public comment, it is none, no, that, I have one public comment in person. Allison Chan?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Allison Chan. I'm the political director at Save the Bay. I'm also a San Leandro resident, so very excited to be standing in front of you tonight, my first time in council chambers. So just for those of you who are unfamiliar, Save the Bay works to support cities across the region in adopting policies and enacting projects that prepare our communities for sea level rise and reduce a flood risk and reducing bay pollution. We want to thank the city for proposing this fee. Without this critical funding, San Leandro runs the risk of failing to comply with clean water laws that require reductions in the amount of trash, bacteria, and heavy metals that flow into waterways. This funding will also help address long overdue upgrades to our stormwater infrastructure and the maintenance required to ensure that infrastructure operates to its full potential. My daughter goes to Washington Elementary, and anytime it even rains just a little bit, one of the intersections or one part of the intersection floods and kids have to step out of the crosswalk in order to, cross to the other side of the street without stepping in a puddle. These are the kinds of challenges that better stormwater infrastructure and maintenance could help to avoid. Also, this fee could help the city become more competitive for state and federal funding that require matching grants matching funds, which we know is difficult to come by. So we're excited to see the city have an opportunity to generate more of that local funding so you can access even more funding with it. One strategy we're really eager to see the city pursue is green stormwater infrastructure. You can see good examples of that at the Kaiser campus, and I think there's some in front of the Tarani plant. This is really great multi-benefit infrastructure that addresses flooding, reduces stormwater pollution because it just uses dirt and plants to get the pollution out, while also, providing cooling during the summer because it's greening our communities. So would love to see these funds used towards that. Urge your support for the resolutions tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mayor, we will now go to online public comment.
Thank you.
IT, can you get the timer ready, please? Lucas, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my comment, Mayor and Council. I remember dialing in about this a few weeks back and mentioning that I strongly support this proposal. I really like, the idea that larger parcels pay more than small parcels. I like that small parcels are going to get a little bit of a discount, from $26.33 to $26.07 per parcel. It never made sense to me why someone with more than 7,000 square feet should pay the same as someone with less than 3,000 square feet. That they contribute less rain, they contribute less garbage to the stormwater. No reason for them to pay the same. But there are a few things here that I I mentioned last time that I didn't like, and I didn't see them addressed. So I'll just repeat. In the flyer that I see will be attached, we send information about the budget and the projects we want to fund, but nowhere in this flyer does it say that medium-sized parcels are going to see their per parcel fee essentially double from $26 to $49, or that the large parcels are going to see their fee triple from $26 to $75. I read this flyer and I don't see those numbers, and you would think that we're about to triple your fee, large parcels. We're about to double your fee, medium parcels would be at the very top of page 1 if you want people to really consider objecting to this. The other part that I mentioned last time was I didn't particularly like that this is happening off cycle, especially given that this is a big election year. People aren't paying attention in May and July, and so you probably won't get any objections or protests. If that's the intent, let's also make people pay for a postage stamp on the return envelope. That will guarantee no one sends anything back. So I just don't like that this is being done a little clandestinely. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny Madsen, you may unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. So I was the one who brought up sea level rise in March. I'm so glad that a better voice than mine came up tonight and was very clear. This is important for the Bay. But on my other soapbox, I just hope that the city of San Leandro takes note of how many of these property owners live outside of San Leandro, because I suspect a great number of them do. And we'll see if they care about San Leandro's stormwater drains. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, there's no more public comment.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to close public comment. I do have 2 hands here among my council colleagues. I've got Councilmember Aguilar and Councilmember Baloo. I will then be going to Councilmember Bowen, and I believe that's Councilmember Simon online. That's the order that I'll be taking for their benefit, since they can't, I don't think, see our raised hand system. Councilmember Aguilar, please. And this is now for discussion, and I'll be willing to accept a motion. Councilmember Aguilar.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. Thank you, staff, for the great presentation. I'd just like to move with staff's recommendation to move this item.
And to just clarify your motion, is that to adopt both resolutions?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Blue,
Certainly second that, but I do have a question and a comment, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
certainly.
Probably for Cynthia. The last time we raised these rates was 1993.
Yes, that's when the rates were established.
Moving forward, is there a process that will allow us to stay current or revisit so that it's sustainable?
Yes, the fee includes a CPI adjustment annually with a cap of 3% and then establishes a reserve where you can bank that if it's over and then apply it in future years. So in no year will it increase more than 3%.
Thank you. I actually have two comments. One is very quick. I wanted to just make a note that we have done some green wastewater collection with city buildings. Our senior center has it. It was one of the first in the area to have it. It was thought of as really kind of not ahead of its time, but kind of timely for San Leandro. And then there are some other places that we do use that technology, and it's always top of mind or front of mind of people that are green in this council. So thank you for bringing that. We also use it. I think the water pollution control plant is using it now to help filter some of the water before it goes out. And I know that I think Oraloma does, but I think Councilmember Simon can talk about that. Also, the last comment I have has to do with the comment made by my colleague, Councilmember Azevedo, and that's street sweeper. I don't know if anyone remembers, but about 3 years ago, I asked, when are we going to get automated, self-driving, electric street sweepers? We all have them in our homes. They're called Roombas. So I think we should be able
You
to
have them.
find a way to look for that kind of technology, not necessarily because of it is an issue with jobs. I get that, but we are finding communities changing in their makeup and who parks when and where, and we need smaller service items to help us with this stormwater issue. The big street sweepers we have are not effective in many neighborhoods because of multiple families living in houses, people owning more cars, less, et cetera, et cetera. And I was recently somewhere, it was traveling somewhere out of the country, and they had smaller street sweeping units. And I was super impressed because they could probably fit into just about anywhere they need to get to clean out the gutters and help the solution to this, which is on the front end more than the back end. It's better to prevent it than to have to catch it. So those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
At this point in time, I'll go to Councilmember Bowen online.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a quick question and then a comment. Are we going to have the notice of public hearings and the flyers translated into different languages? I know I only saw the English one.
So I'll toss that first to city manager and then she can allocate it.
I need to ask the team. I don't know if you prepared for that.
Yeah, we haven't prepared for that at this point in time, but we will do that for the ballots.
Okay, I think that would be helpful. Obviously, if it's possible for staff to be able to get that done, I think the more that we can get the information out in different languages, and if possible, be able to share information out, obviously by mail, but potentially through the newspapers, just so that people are aware that this is happening. And then the other thing is, along with the increase in adjusting this is, I think that it would be helpful if we also had an increase in education and communication in general around keeping trash out of the storm drains and the different programs the city does run, so that we can be preventative as well. So that, our high and very high need projects, hopefully we can sustain those and help get more bang for our buck so that we can kind of keep things operational. Those are my comments.
So Councilmember Simon, I cannot tell. I think you might have your hand raised.
Yes, my hand is raised. Yes,
proceed.
thank you. I am supportive of this proposal. However, I do believe we should be doing more. I believe we should be requesting more money. However, I understand this is the will of the council, so I am supportive. My concern is the 3% per year. I'm worried that that's not going to cover it. Inflation typically is higher than that, and my understanding is the Heron Bay Maintenance Assessment District ran into a similar issue, is 20 years old now, went 3% per year. Now, 20 years later, there's a major deficit. And that group, that homeowners association, has to make up the deficit. So I would hope that we don't wait. When 1993 was the last time we did a 218. I hope that we can more proactively look at another 218 in a few years or less. I am also concerned that we're not including the medium priority projects or the low priority projects. I am concerned that those will become high at some point. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not addressing those projects at all. So I just want to, put on the record that I think we should be at some point in the near future planning for these other projects and really considering that 3% per year likely won't cover us in the next 20 years. But I am glad that we're doing something. Something is definitely better than nothing. We definitely need this, but I'm looking forward to doing more in the future because many times infrastructure is overlooked. It's underground, doesn't get much attention, and it definitely needs attention. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've heard from all our council member comments that folks that would like to speak. I'll leave you with a couple of quick thoughts. I think that the story is really simple. When you haven't increased a fee in 30 years, there are people in our city that weren't even born when this fee went into place. There are people that have been adults their entire lives and haven't seen this fee increased. I think we, out of just being fiduciaries for our city, we need to take care of our city. In 30 years, the purchasing power has decreased by over 50%. So at the very least, just to be economically responsible, we have to double the fee. That's the bare minimum to just be responsible. But it's a little more complicated than that because the state of California has imposed a number of requirements to help us keep our bay cleaner. And I think that we want our bay to be clean. We want to be compliant. We want to do the right thing. And that's why we have reached beyond simply doubling so that we can do the right thing the right way. I'm proud of what our council has supported. And so I will call the question and ask my council members to vote.
Councilmember Bowen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Simon,
Yes.
all votes are in. Motion passes 7-0 with Vice Mayor Simon, yes. Councilmember Baloo, yes. Councilmember Bowen, yes. Councilmember Aguilar, yes. Councilmember Azevedo, yes. Councilmember Viveros Walton, yes. And Mayor Gonzalez, yes.
So we now come to items 13B and 13C. They are distinct items on our agenda. Both of these were presented at Rules Committee a while ago. And in many ways, this is to help drive alignment to other regional agencies. As you, as a council, recognize, we are part of regional enforcement activities and just trying to make sure that we're all aligned with our neighbors. So our first one is 13B, which is the first reading of an ordinance to add Chapter 4-43, Prohibition of Unlawful Possession of Catalytic Converters to Title 4 of Public Welfare, the San Leandro Municipal Code. And we've got Chief Hart here to introduce the item.
Well, right that one. Evening, Mayor, council members. Tonight, I have the privilege of talking about catalytic converters for purposes of a proposed ordinance that would prohibit individually owned catalytic converters that are outside of a vehicle. So catalytic converters, just a little bit of a back history, is an exhaust system, emissions control device. It's a portion thereof that converts toxic gas and pollutants to exhaust gas from an internal combustion engine to less toxic pollutants. In San Leandro in 2020, we've had 178 catalytic converters that were stolen. 21 was 482, 22 was 593. And of course, you can see that 2023 reduced to 302 catalytic converter thefts. And these are the only ones that are reported. And I think we can probably all agree that some people just are not reporting the catalytic converter thefts. California law recently changed in several different bills, and these are mostly all related to core recyclers or dismantlers, essentially. But they required core recyclers to provide documentation signifying the catalytic converters being purchased by core recyclers was obtained by the seller in a legal manner. AB 1740 required people or businesses who buy catalytic converters to document the purchase recorded by the year, make, and model and VIN number of their vehicle, where it came from. And AB 641 made it an infraction to be in possession of at least 9 catalytic converters that had been cut from a vehicle. This was specifically for dismantlers containing a large amount of catalytic converters, and technically it is a misdemeanor, but the fine that was imposed was an infraction, which is why we put it in there. And you had to go 3 violations, individual violations, before you got to the misdemeanor. The ease and the undetected nature of committing the thefts in a matter of seconds using common tools, all right, as a separator tool is what causes some of this concern and issue. It can be done with a matter of 30 seconds. I did not show you in the videos today because I think we probably would guess that everyone's probably either known someone or been a victim of catalytic converter thefts. But it's a very quick and easy, unfortunately. There are safeguards that people can do, barriers and guards and so forth, but ability to recycle these still continue to be a problem. All right, with scrap metal yards paying anywhere from $200 to $1,200 per individual catalytic converter. And the loopholes in the legislation that only allow law enforcement to arrest individuals in possession of catalytic converter if it can be proven to have been stolen from a particular victim. And that kind of goes with a lot of the big problem. I'll just, an example, 3 o'clock in the morning, someone has a catalytic converter in their back seat. I have to be able to show that we have a victim. The individual says it's mine. I bought it from somebody, a friend of mine. If I don't have a victim, it's hard for me to write a citation or arrest an individual based on not having a victim in a specific case. That being said, the proposed ordinance will make it unlawful for any person other than a core recycler, as defined by California Business and Profession Code, right, to possess any catalytic converter that is not attached to a vehicle, unless the possessor has valid documentation or other proof to verify they're in lawful possession of the catalytic converter. Violations for this would be a misdemeanor and/or $1,000 fine. Similar ordinances to this have already been enacted: South San Francisco, San Jose, Vallejo, Los Angeles, Fulton, Huntington Beach, and Irvine. So this essentially would stop the ability for anyone driving with a catalytic converter in the back seat at any time of the day without having any kind of validation or proof or receipt or something. This is not going to stop someone who was a victim of catalytic converter theft and went to a place to buy one because that individual would have a receipt, have validation that could be proven and so forth that they purchased a catalytic converter in and of itself. So this will be the ones that have no proof, no documentation, and I can't substantiate that victim piece of it, which is an important core element of my elements to prove a crime has occurred. That being said, we do plan a public education campaign. This is a twofold. This is also for the ones that may be interested in stealing a catalytic converter on social media, Nexel, and community organizations, as well as business group and homeowner associations. We want to make sure we get the word out that if you possess, if approved, if you possess a catalytic converter in San Leandro, all right, without proof of the ability to show that you bought that purchase, you are subject to arrest. So my recommendation would be to adopt ordinance adding chapter 4-43, prohibition of unlawful possession of catalytic converter to Title 4, Public Welfare, of the San Leandro Municipal Code to prohibit unlawful possession of catalytic converter. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So at this point in time, we will take questions. Councilmember Azevedo, please.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. In the other cities that have adopted this ordinance, what's the data on them? Do you have any data on them? Like how many arrests or how many cars has it been a good?
I don't have the specific data, but I know that everyone that we've talked to, it has reduced catalytic converter theft. I don't have a specific number to tell you.
Okay.
It's been a deterrent, and that's what we want to try to cause here by doing all the social media and output and so forth. We want people to stay away from San Leandro if they have any interest in any kind of crime, obviously, but certainly catalytic converter theft.
So, yeah, I got another question. So if someone's driving around with the catalytic converter back there and it looks like it's been chopped off by a sawzall and they have a sawzall back there too, that's not suspicious. You have to find a victim to be able to do something about that now?
It is, but I work for a catalytic converter, or I work for a dismantler. I work for, construction company. I work for various things. We have to show elements of the crime have occurred, and we have to have a victim.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bowen, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Hart, for the information. One question, what is I support, obviously creating a deterrent and then closing the loopholes that are in place right now. What is the process for appealing a potential arrest?
Judicial system at this point in time, the officer would provide a report based on the circumstances. They'd be subject to arrest. The court would obviously hear and read the report, and photographs would be taken. It would be substantiated what circumstances occurred, and that individual has the right to have his or her questions or issues heard in the court of law.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Thank you, Chief. In your experience, are the people that have been arrested due to catalytic converter thefts, do they tend to be repeat offenders? Is it their first time? The reason I'm asking is if it's a person with no prior record, I'm concerned about putting them into into that system. So can you tell me a little bit about your experience there?
I've never found an individual that has a catalytic converter in the back seat of their car at any given time of day of that being his first time, his or her first time. It's a crime of opportunity. It's a quick and easy crime. It's high value, potentially low risk. There have been, as news reports, there have been a lot of owners have certain alarm systems that are motion detected and will set off their alarm. And there's been incidents there where the homeowner has confronted them. It's such an easy, quick way to make 200 to $1,000, and we're still finding that we still continue to have them in our city as well as throughout the Bay Area.
Thank you. And would we be the first city in Alameda County or in the East Bay to adopt an ordinance of this kind?
Not in the Bay Area, I think, but they're certainly in Alameda County.
Okay.
I know that the county, I know that the county is trying to get their enactment as well.
Okay.
They're in the process.
So we would be kind of leading the way in the county in terms of this type of ordinance. Are there any other cities that have expressed interest in pursuing an ordinance like this?
They all do.
Okay.
They all do.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Blue, please.
Just questions, Mayor, or are we comments?
Questions right now?
So you might have said this at the very beginning, but if you did, I miss it. This is not like going into a Safeway and stealing a pack of candy. I mean, what's involved in actually stealing it? What does the violator have to do to steal a catalytic converter? Is there some planning involved, some tools involved?
A sawzall, essentially, battery operated preferred, opportunity, maybe some hours of darkness, although it's been done during the day as well. It literally could take about 30 seconds if they know exactly what they're looking for. They know exactly where to cut in between, and it takes 2 cuts, essentially. It's part of the exhaust system. So all you're doing is you're gonna climb underneath the vehicle, all right, with a saw, metal saw. It's just gonna cut, and you're back out, and you're gonna do another car, and you're out. Literally 30 to 40 seconds at the most.
When I think crime of opportunity, I think, and I'm walking down the street, oh, there's a wallet. But like when I think catalytic converter, I think there's got to be some planning. I got to have the tool. I got to have the motor. I got to be looking. Is that kind of a correct?
Yes.
characterization of what's going on here?
Now,
And
you have to know you have to know what you're planning, essentially. This is something that's not just a spur of the moment. You got to have the right equipment, the right tools in order to facilitate it. You're not going to undo the bolts, and that's just not going to happen. There's wells associated with that in between when it comes to the exhaust system. So you need to cut it out, essentially.
thank you.
And what I haven't mentioned thus far is that although it's only $1,200 to say $1,000 or $1,200 that they get to replace a Cadillac converter can run anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 just for one, and that's just to replace it if you can get the Cadillac converter, and you'll be out of your vehicle for any given time, a week to order the part, whatever. But it does take a considerable amount of time to install once you get the part.
Councilmember Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. Thank you, Chief, for the presentation. Can you answer with regards to a certain percentage of how often catalytic converter thefts are committed in pairs?
In pairs? I think, well, I'm going to guesstimate. I don't have any specific facts, but I would tell you that most of the time, as Councilmember Baloo had just indicated, you're going to have your tools with you. All right, you're going to know what you're going to do. You're going to go out there and do 4 or 5 at a time within a matter of an hour.
And some of these cases are they individuals, or is there in some cases I've seen multiple folks?
We found them to be in pairs, typically. One's a lookout, essentially. One's the actual cutter, for lack of better words. They mostly work on trucks because they're usually higher up. They jump under within a matter of seconds. They drop off. One's looking for any other cars or any kind of noise, barking dogs. They're out back in the car within 30 seconds.
And how often are these individuals who are committing the catalytic converter theft armed?
That I don't have any statistical data, so I would be hesitant to give you a specific, but it is certainly a concern.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Azevedo, please.
Yes, okay. My question is, for 2024, does it seem like catalytic converter thefts are down? Because in 2023, it's down to 302.
It is certainly down, and I think we may attribute that to higher enforcement. Some of the laws enacted in 2023 may have an impact with the dismantlers, all right, where they may not want to touch, something, but we have dismantlers that may not necessarily be most professional. But I think that laws that were enacted may have caused that dip in aspect. And then with the number of catalytic converter thefts, we have seen individuals that are buying now a little cage to go up and surround the actual catalytic converter, which wouldn't prevent it because they could cut through it, but it's delay them. It's going to be more like a 3 to 4 to 5 minute time period to get through that cage, and then you got to cut the catalytic converter. So it's a deterrent. It's like putting a lock on, right? If you want to get through that lock, the bad guy's going to get through the lock. All right, they'll just break the lock. They'll break the hasp, whatever the circumstances might be. So we have seen that dip, so forth.
You mentioned homeowners. Yeah, I want to recommend to the community, and you probably agree, that they should not confront any of them because they do have a watch out person. There's a person with a gun there. It happened in the manor. Someone was getting their catalytic converter stolen, and the lady was putting on her alarm, turning it on and off, and the person didn't care. They just kept on cutting it. So the husband yelled out the window, "Hey, the cops are on the way," and they started shooting out the house. So I don't recommend anybody trying to confront them. And
I absolutely agree with you. It's at the end of the day, it's a piece of property. It's not worth your life.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage and patience in order to refrain from wanting to go out there and yell and scream and so forth, but it is not worth your life or any injury.
Yeah, what I've seen and what I heard from the community, there's always someone with a gun.
Absolutely.
This is it.
Councilmember Viveros Walton, please.
Thank you. Just 2 very basic questions. Forgive me for my lack of car knowledge. Do hybrid cars also have catalytic converters? They do make exhausts?
You say a hybrid, so it's going to be a combustible engine. So yes, they will have one.
Okay,
And electric cars will not because it's,
right. I know that much.
okay, just checking.
My other question is, what is the cost to the victim to replace a catalytic converter?
I've received prices from anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000. And part of it is also the time because they don't have it in stock typically. They've got to order it. Supply chain issue, came into, 2023, 2022. That was a big issue. So the time outside of your car, can't drive it without it. And you'll hear it as soon as you start it up. You'll hear that something's wrong. And the cost associated with it.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
This point in. Councilmember Simon, please.
Yes, thank you. My question is, do we have any information on where these crimes are occurring in the city? For example, close to freeways for quick and easy exiting?
Councilmember, I do not tonight. I just have the total figure that we listed of 300 throughout the city, but I did not specify the specifics.
Okay. All right. Have we looked into, I'm very happy with our public education campaign slide that you have here. My question is, it relates to my freeway because quick and easy seems like a motive that they follow, quick and easy. Looking into the billboards, electronic billboards we have in San Leandro near the Marina exit, as well as the other end of San Leandro in San Lorenzo, near Llewellyn Boulevard. Have we looked at advertising San Leandro's proactive ordinance here on 880, Highway 880?
I have not as of yet, but I certainly can. We're going to use mostly social media, but that's certainly not a bad idea at all to consider that because we do have some opportunities there at no cost to the city potentially, or maybe minimal cost. I'll also to add to your question, the earlier question, we've seen these thefts in just individual neighborhoods, industrial areas, anywhere where there's an opportunity and a want and the ability and the tools is where it happens. And I've also had people that have told me they've gotten it stolen more than once, which is also very frustrating, I'm sure, to the victim in this case.
Thank you. And my last comment, I just want to chime in on what Councilmember Azevedo said about safety and not approaching them, and as you as well, Chief Hart. In Heron Bay, it wasn't a catalytic converter, but it was another kind of theft. Someone approached someone being robbed in their driveway, and they got shot and killed right in their driveway, and that murder is still unsolved. It's probably 8 years now. So just like you said, Chief, if there is, it's just property, let it go. Your life is way more important. We're still reeling in Heron Bay from that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
At this point in time, I'm going to move to public comment, please.
Mr. Mayor, there's no public comment in person, and we have one online.
Please proceed.
Lucas, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for taking my comment, and thank you to the police chief and to the council for taking this very serious crime into consideration and expanding our tool set in the law for our ability to deal with it. It is a crime that hurt a lot of our neighbors. We live in District 5 on a border with Oakland, and we know the stories that happen when these things get stolen. And it's a crime that punishes, that hurts poor people the most, people who park their cars on the streets, who park them in their driveways, who don't have a garage where they can park in their backyard or whatever. So it is a horrible, unfair crime. However, this city ordinance is about to criminalize possession or penalize possession in some way. So I want to read section 443-200 prohibition and the language it says. So it says, it shall be unlawful for any person, ellipsis, to possess any catalytic converter that is not attached to a vehicle unless the possessor has valid documentation or other proof to validate legal possession. So then I look at what does valid documentation or other proof say, and that refers to 443-110, which says documentation or other proof means written documents clearly identifying the vehicle from which the catalytic converter originated. But if the catalytic converter is the device or any portion thereof, I worry that we're about to punish people who just own the components, like the heat shield, the stainless steel casing, the reduction catalyst, who just ordered the parts off of Amazon in an attempt to build their own catalytic converter. And they might have a proof of sale, a bill from Amazon, but remember, the definition of documentation means identifying the vehicle from which the converter or its parts originated. Now, in this case, they didn't originate from a vehicle, they originated from the original equipment manufacturer. So I worry that someone might misuse this law to punish people who aren't intended to be punished. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, there's no more public comment.
Seeing none, I will close public comment and come back to our council members for any further discussion. I know that some of you did offer your comments already, and also to consider a motion. Councilmember Baloo.
I'm going to try not to get on my soapbox. Thank you, Chief Hart, by the way, for the presentation. I'm going to try not to get on my soapbox here, but if we look at things like catalytic converter theft, high value, easy targets, in the context of social contract, when we, as a state and as a county and as a city, vote to let nonviolent criminals out of jail early, and then our catalytic converters get stolen, and we are in shock and awe and surprise, I just think we need to have a better thought process in the future for holding those who are going to take advantage of that more accountable. And I know that doesn't always fall on the city. Here we are making a law to deal with something that we didn't really create. But I think we really need to have better policy when we look at rehabilitation ideas, because this got way out of control in 2021, 2022, and 2023. And not just the amount of money and not just the crooked people buying them, people losing their lives because they just say, hey, stop. That's my catalytic converter. I think that's the big deal. I also am concerned that making an ordinance, if I'm Joe Criminal, in my experience, making an ordinance is not going to stop me from going and getting the car. However, as much as that billboard idea is a good idea, I think the better idea is the informal network, as Chief Hart is probably well aware, having worked for the county and in the jail. People that commit crimes do talk, and they do share, and they do say, hey, don't go to blah, 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 because they will blah, blah, blah. And it's well known that San Leandro, they take things all the way up to the DA's office. So I think we have to find that balance. It's great to have an ordinance. Where I'm going with this is it's great to have an ordinance, but if there's no teeth behind it, or we try and use it as an additional tool to get people charged, and then there's no charges that come out of it, notwithstanding, every single one of our insurance policies, insurance premiums have gone up, not only as a result of fires in homes, but as a result of insurance companies paying out millions and millions of dollars for something that we didn't have to go through. So I appreciate this ordinance. I think it's really good to have something that is proactive and makes a statement, but I worry that it might only be virtue signaling. I guess the true test will be what the statistics look at what they are in 2024, 2025 compared to other communities our size. But do appreciate your efforts in bringing this forward. I think it was something that was brought forward almost a year ago by Councilmember Azevedo. He identified it as an issue in the community. People are still reeling from this and still upset. So I think it's a step in the right direction, but I want to encourage everyone who's listening, let's take a more holistic view when we start thinking about something that's a good idea and maybe planning a little more for the future, tighten up some laws before we vote on other laws. I don't have the final solution on that, but it's cause and effect. And I think we did something that we thought the intent was good. It was pure. And the result was not so pure. And I still worry about people like Councilmember Azevedo, Councilmember Simon said, trying to intervene, vigilantism, whatever, and then someone gets shot and killed. That's not okay. My comments, Mr. Mayor.
So I'm going to go next to Councilmember Viveros Welch, and then go to Councilmember Bowen, and then Vice Mayor Simon. So, Councilmember.
I was actually going to move the item, but sounds like there's more discussion.
I will come back to you for a motion. Councilmember Bowen, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate what Councilmember Baloo just mentioned about, having some substance as well and meat to the ordinance. It would be great if we can, in the next year, look back at like the efficacy rates of the ordinance. And I would say that about many of the things that we do, just to be able to understand if what we are trying to do is working and make changes if it isn't, or build upon it if it is. I'm confident that the numbers that Chief Hart mentioned are high, but I think that they're lower than what the true numbers are. Just in conversations with people, I've had to encourage people to actually report things that have been stolen. The response I get oftentimes in the city is, like it already happened, so I don't expect the police to come, and there's nothing that I can do about it. And I would encourage the community to report, so that we do have more true numbers. And understand of what is happening in the city. And I will say too, on a more regular basis than I would like, I will go to my car in District 5 and find that somebody has tried to open the door or actually has been in my car. So that sense of violation is real. And, I think that it's true that this is a crime of opportunity that happens all over the city. But I do hear about it very often in District 5 and really do appreciate this ordinance. And I would like to second the motion after going back to Councilmember Rivera-Walton.
Okay, so I'm going to come to council member or to Vice Mayor Simon at this time.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to reiterate the advertisement of this ordinance. I mentioned it in the question section, but I believe really strongly in getting this information out on the electronic billboards on 880 here in San Leandro, right next to us in San Lorenzo. Just thinking, out loud, out the box here, thinking maybe even other cities next to us, Oakland near the Coliseum, Emeryville Bay Bridge. I think it's important to get the message out that San Leandro, we are not going to tolerate this crime. We're not going to tolerate it. So just wanted to mention that, and I am supportive of this ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to offer a few quick comments, and then I'll come back to council members. I think we've pretty much covered it. Do you think that we should never lose track of the downstream effects like insurance premiums? Over and over and over, these actions do have consequences that are beyond what individuals personally experience in the inconvenience. I think that what's even more interesting there is that I think people are genuinely afraid to report certain crimes because of the fear that their premiums will increase. And whether that's out of our business community or out of our residents, I do see that. The number of people that tell me, no, I don't want to report that because what are they going to do? All they're going to do is increase my premiums. That concerns me. So I think that we need to take action. Out of deference to Councilmember Baloo's observation that we did have an original referral from Councilmember Azevedo with respect to bait cars as a way to consider addressing this issue. I do think that this approach is in response to that effort. I would ask Councilmember Viveros-Walton if she would mind if we had a motion from Councilmember Azevedo, and I can go to you for the second, and then to Bowen for a third. Would you like to move the item, Councilmember Azevedo?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would. So
Okay.
I'd like to move the item.
And then I will come back to Councilmember Viveros-Walton.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and then I know Councilmember Bowen, I've got an implied third from you, and I'll just note that for the record. So at this point in time, I'd like to, if I had all the discussion that we need to have, I'd like to call the question.
Councilmember Bowen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Simon,
Yes.
all votes are in. Motion passes 7-0. Vice Mayor Simon, yes. Councilmember Baloo, yes. Councilmember Bowen, yes. Councilmember Aguilar, yes. Councilmember Azevedo, yes. Councilmember Veros-Walton, yes. And Mayor Gonzalez, yes.
So I'd like to take up item 13C, specifically with respect to sideshows and a number of elements of trying to address the sideshow risks that we have, not only in San Leandro, but in the greater East Bay and quite frankly, the Bay Area.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight we're going to talk about sideshows as well. Kelly, do I have to? You? Let me do it again. So sideshows defined sideshows defined as an occasion when one or more persons for the purpose of performing a street race or a reckless driving exhibit, all right, for one or more spectators, either blocks or impedes traffic on a street or highway or impedes access to an off-street parking facility. Reported sideshows, and I would emphasize the fact reported because we don't see all of them, as you can imagine. In 2021, there were 76, 2022 is 55, and 2023 was 43. And that 43 number was only through October of this year. San Leandro Police Department has long had a relationship with other organizations in order to affect the impact of sideshows on a regional basis. We belong to what we call RESET, which is the Regional Sideshow Enforcement Team. It involves Alameda County Sheriff's Office, San Leandro PD, Hayward PD, and the California Highway Patrol. The mission is focused on the reduction of dangerous and unlawful gatherings known as sideshows, reckless driving, and associated violent crime through proactive enforcement within Hayward, San Leandro, and incorporated Alameda County. We also have, every time we do this, we also have the huge benefit of having the Alameda County Sheriff's Office aerial squad that's up there that flies around and that will track some vehicles that might flee the area as well. Some of the reset numbers just for 2023 was 134 misdemeanor arrests, 66 felony arrests, traffic stops over 1,400, guns seized 27. All right, and we believe we have 4 unknown or prevented sideshows just by the presence of the number of cops. So you can see just by on the number of cops, those all have vehicles. We also have the airplane that's up as well at the same time. California law, if in fact you are at a sideshow and are cited, there is a 1-year suspension for participating in a sideshow, engaged in a speed contest, which is currently on the books and has been for a number of years, is a misdemeanor and a fine up to $1,000. Reckless driving, as you can also imagine, is a misdemeanor up to $1,000 as well. Spectators, so part of this ordinance tonight, because those sideshows is already illegal based on these sections. Tonight, we're proposing that spectators be prohibited from also being at the sideshow. So we're proposing that it is unlawful for any person to not only be a spectator at a sideshow event conducted on a public street or a highway off-street parking facility. It would be unlawful for any person to not only be a spectator at the location of the preparation for a sideshow event on a public street or off-street parking facility. We recommend a misdemeanor and/or up to $1,000 fine. So the definition of a spectator, all right, shall mean any person who is present at a sideshow event or the site of the preparation of a sideshow event for the purposes of viewing, observing, watching, or witnessing the sideshow event as it progresses. A spectator includes any person at the location of the sideshow event that may have participated in preparation and/or promoted the sideshow. Present would be described as an event of any person within 200 feet of the location of the sideshow or within 200 feet of the sideshow of the preparation of the event. As you can see, this is a picture. All right, this actually is out of Oakland. It is not San Leandro, but you can see the number of individuals that were at the site at the time. Similar ordinances, as you can see, Oakland, San Jose, Hayward, Pittsburgh, Petaluma, Santa Rosa, and Rohnert Park. This is for purposes of prevention. We want to stop the sideshows. We want to make sure that people know San Leandro takes it seriously. You can't have the sideshow, and you can't participate in a sideshow, and you can't be at a sideshow. those three elements, I think, will help reduce the number of sideshows in our city. So we're recommending an adoption of an ordinance adding chapter 4-44 sideshows, street races, and reckless driving. Title 4 of the Public Welfare of the San Leandro Municipal Code to prohibit spectators at sideshows, street races, and reckless driving. At the Rules Committee, there was a question concerning legality of this issue. And I'd like to turn it over to our city attorney to speak of that one piece, because I think that's an important element.
If you could please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we analyzed the ordinance, the constitutionality of the ordinance against other similar ordinances that have been passed that the chief mentioned just in a couple slides ago. While there's absolutely always a risk that someone will file a claim, we believe that based on our reading of other ordinances, as well as the constitutional arguments, the definitions are not vague as far as 200 feet. The 200 feet to be considered a spectator or present, excuse me, at the sideshow. And that the course, police officers have their enforcement discretion based on their constitutional police power, the city's constitutional police power. So we did not reinvent the wheel. We looked at and contacted and worked with other cities, city attorneys, and had conversations. And we understand that there's absolutely not, there's of course just still a risk. We believe that it's been mitigated.
Thank you. I'll end with, the goal is to save lives. And if we can prevent someone from going and participating in a sideshow presentation, may save their life or someone else's life, but it may also prevent the potential sideshow from even starting. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So at this point in time, we will go to council member questions, then we'll go to our public comment, and we'll come back for discussion. Councilmember Azevedo, your questions, please.
Yes, thank you for your presentation, Chief. The reported sideshows, the numbers you give us, are those including ATVs, or are those just cars? Because there's ATVs doing sideshows. They did donuts in front of the police station.
Just vehicles.
Okay, these are just cars, vehicles. Okay. Also, a spectator, you say within 200 feet. What if this is happening in a parking lot and somebody's walking to their car? And are they considered a spectator?
Well, we're going to have eyes on. All right. This will be something that's a very specific element of the crime itself. So if they're just walking by as a passenger, they're not involved. They're not engaged in it. They're just walking to get to their car.
Police officer's judgment.
Correct.
Okay, on that. And the sideshows in San Leandro, are there any spectators? Because they're usually just a car or two. I know there was some big ones at the marina till we shut it down. There was a car that actually flew into the marina, the water. Yeah. So, have we had any?
Yeah, we have a few
interaction with spectators.
We have a few, and there's some that will come and park their cars, obviously, and surround the area and try to block it off. They do that purposely to try to stop the police from getting into the circle, essentially. So they have their lookouts, for lack of better words, as well. I mean, it's a planned event, and that's what we're trying to also stop. We're trying to stop that planning phase, right? People engaging in the process, because the ones that are spinning the donuts, that's all in violation of the vehicle code, and will potentially could take their vehicle for 30 days. I call it car jail.
Oh, that was my next question.
It's the potential for that, and it hurts.
Yeah.
We're trying to prevent that.
What's the policy on dispersing the sideshows rather than impounding them and charging them fines? What's the policy on that? So
if they're actively engaged in that sideshow, we're going to try to prevent that sideshow, and they're certainly subject to citation.
Probably depends on how many cars too.
Depends on the circumstances, absolutely. This will undoubtedly be a difficult ordinance to enforce, but our feeling is if we have it on the books, we can use it as an opportunity if it exists, all right, sparingly, but we can use it.
Okay.
Try to prevent.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Blue, please.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Chief Hart, for that presentation. I have a question for the city attorney. I apologize. In preparing for tonight, I didn't think of this until the presentation. The definition of spectator, I don't know if there's a way we can get back to that. Would it be considered a major change requiring us another or a new first reading if we were to consider adding something like for the purpose of viewing, observing, watching, witnessing, or recording the sideshow event?
Adding the word recording? No, I don't believe that's not a major change.
I think many people show up and they got their phones out and they're ready to record. And I think that may be a good example of something that may help us be a little more productive. Well, you can see it right there. Look at that picture. Everybody's got their phones out. So how do you deny that you're not a spectator if you're there holding your phone recording? I just a quick, I mean, if you think it would be fine, I might say that we consider adding that as a council and as a city. And I'll save the rest for my comments when it's time. Thank you.
And we'll come back to potential additions later. We'll stick to questions right now. Councilmember Viveros Walton, please.
I just have a question around revoking driver's license. Does that happen if someone is charged with reckless driving, or is it just, can you tell me a little bit about what happens to the driver?
The driver would be cited for the reckless driving, and then it's handled by the DMV. It does allow, reckless driving is a point or 2 points off of your record, and DMV will review your driving record. And if ultimately it's convicted, two different things, right? The judicial piece and DMV, they certainly can suspend.
Okay.
It's not something the law enforcement has anything to do with it, but the law is on the books in order for it to facilitate that if DMV determines that it was needed.
Thank you. And my next question is to the city attorney. I think you touched on it a little bit around, I was wondering if there have been any First Amendment challenges to cities who have enacted this in the past?
Yes, Councilmember Viveros Walton. It was Oakland in 2005. I think more, so there was a challenge, and then Oakland rescinded its ordinance. But that was now 18 years ago. Obviously, I think times have changed, and other jurisdictions similar to ours have defined the distance as 200 feet, and obviously making that more clear. So we have not seen any recent challenges.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Councilmember Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez, and thank you, Chief, for the presentation. My concern is I have been caught up in a couple of sideshows, just, in passing, driving back and forth in various cities. And I have no choice but to spectate and stay in my car until this traffic dies down. So how will you decipher whether or not somebody is caught in traffic? Because some people, for their own safety, will record. So I just want to make sure that we're specific, we use this based on judgment, what folks are trying to do, because oftentimes we've seen what happened in Vallejo, where a gentleman just instantly drove off and was chased off into a liquor store and almost beat to he was dead. And so I just want to make sure that we're not putting folks in a situation with this ordinance. Oh, I'm caught up in this, I got to leave because I don't want to get arrested for spectating or recording. So how are we going to use this to decipher whether or not folks are stuck in traffic because of a sideshow, and not cite them for spectating or recording?
It actually happens all the time because the streets are blocked and so forth. So we're always going to have some limited amount of vehicles and people that are not participating whatsoever. It's very clear that these people are not participating. All right, they want out of there. It's very clear to the law enforcement officer and the agency that we do reset, and they're just told to get the heck out of here. Here's the right way. It's clearly in a picture. This picture is kind of highlights, but it does show active participation in the benefit of having the sideshow. Those are the ones that we have potentially, all right, would be citable.
Thank you.
So then going online, first to Councilmember Bowen and then to Vice Mayor Simon. Councilmember Bowen, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Hart. Just a quick question. My my understanding is Alameda County has the similar ordinance. Oakland above us has the same ordinance, and Hayward below also has a similar ordinance. How is our ordinance different, if at all?
It's very, very similar. We fostered our ordinance after Alameda County, which just enacted theirs because a few months back, Alameda County had not finalized theirs. They've recently finalized theirs, and in San Jose, city of San Jose.
Okay, great. And so really, certainly within our neighbors in the county, we're one of the last then to pass it. And I really appreciate the efforts with Reset, and I feel like this is an opportunity for us to think regionally as well. If the county and Oakland and Hayward and others are passing these ordinances, I think that this is a good opportunity for us.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you, council member. I think it's more important today than it was maybe yesterday, to use that phrase, to regionalize some of these ordinances so that it's consistent, so we can shut it down on a consistent basis. If we do it, we work together as that region, or the 580 corridor or the 880 corridor, we can combine that sources. They won't have a place to go. That's the goal.
I'm assuming that that's all.
Yes, thank you.
You are most welcome. So coming to Vice Mayor, please.
Thank you. My question is, if Alameda County has an ordinance and we're within Alameda County and our ordinance is the same as Alameda County, what benefit is this ordinance?
Alameda County's ordinance, council members, only for their jurisdiction. Doesn't include the city of San Leandro.
So that's only unincorporated?
Correct.
Alameda
So
County.
unincorporated, so the Castro Valley, San Lorenzo, unincorporated San Leandro, parts of Hayward.
Got it. Okay. And my next question relates to Councilmember Azevedo when he asked about ATVs. Did you say that ATVs aren't included in sideshow vehicles? In the ordinance?
No, they would be included if they had one. I'm not aware of one, of an ATV sideshow. There certainly could be, but right. So it sounds like there are some ATV sideshows that either go reported or unreported and so forth. So sounds like I need to keep an eye on that for the side. They're included. They'd be included in this ordinance.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Councilmember Baloo.
I'm just queuing up for the comment section.
Okay, thank you. So if you can re-queue. And then at this point in time, we're going to go to public comment on this item.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, there's no public comment in person, but we have one public comment online.
Please proceed.
Lucas, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you again. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for indulging in another one of my comments. I really appreciate it. I greatly appreciate the city taking action on this and the police chief promoting this. You might remember last summer, I called in maybe 3 or 4 times complaining about all of the, now I know what to call them, these donut sideshows. After we finished playing volleyball in the Marina Park, that they just show up out of nowhere, drive in from Oakland, do a bunch of donuts, a crowd gathers, and before you can do anything, they disappear. The same thing happens over at Foothill Boulevard. Like, go on Google Maps, look at any intersection street with Foothill Boulevard, and you'll see donuts on top of donuts. So I like that the city is doing this, but I don't particularly like this language of spectator, and I'll explain why in a second. But the spectator is being defined as any person who is present at an event for the purpose of viewing, observing, watching, or witnessing. And I've, some of those reports that you saw from 2022 and 2023 came from me, because I used to call in and I used to say, oh, this is the car and here's the description. And they would say over the call, do you have a phone? Do you have a photo? Do you have a video? Do you have a license plate number? So now I try to, whenever I see that, I try to pull out my phone and I try to record it so that when cops show up and I describe what happened, I have it's not just like a still photo of a car that looks stationary. It's a video of a car spinning so they can have whatever they need to do whatever they need to do to investigate this thing and catch these people. So now I'm afraid that if I go to one of these things for the purpose of viewing and watching and maybe even recording to assist with, police activity and like crime, I don't know, assisting with crime resolution or whatever, that I'll be cited for this thing. So I would strongly encourage the council to amend the definition of spectator or whatever to like keep it the viewing observing, but have a clear exception that says except if the purpose of a person in witnessing or watching or recording is to assist with a police investigation or assist with the apprehension of these people, because that's what I do. And I call.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Mayor, there's no more public comment.
Okay, so I'll close public comment and turn it back to our council members for discussion. Councilmember Baloo, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again, Chief Hart. Very briefly, I think I want to rescind my thought about the recording piece. I think I've heard enough, just 2 or 3 examples already that could make that a little bit wonky in an ordinance, especially an ordinance that it would be nice if it mirrors all the other ordinances in the county. And if it's not any others, I don't know that we need to add that. I think it adds a different level of defending the ordinance to our city attorney's plate, and that's not my intent with that. And then just hearing that couple of the public comment and from my colleagues, I think just the viewing would be that's going to be enough. I think the recording would just be something that the police or the DA or whoever could use as evidence if they had that in the phone of someone that was there watching with the intent to watch and had probably social media back up saying, hey, come to the sideshow at blah, blah, blah. I do want to say, I feel I'm elevating the voice of the 89-938 when I say this is a big deal to proactively try and prevent this crime. I also hope, I would like to hope, and I'm not usually a we should or this is how to implement it because that's really a function of staff. We're supposed to be more long range, long term, but I think it might serve us well in the long term when we're messaging this ordinance, if we pass it, that violators or potential violators understand that we, like the state of California, view driving and having a driver's license as a privilege. It's not a right. And if you're in a sideshow and you're sideshowing it, I not only I expect that we're towing their car for 30 days. You lost your privilege. Go to DMV and do what you got to do to get your license renewed, get your car back, go through all the appeals process. We have to do something to deter this activity. For a year straight, every single night, right, coming out of COVID in 2021, 2022, 365, you could set a timer by it at 9 o'clock. There was a sideshow at the marina and the cops would go down there and everybody run and, off we go again. And we, I love that we're doing something to try and bring some knowledge to that and prevent it, get rid of some of the extra tire marks in the intersections. I think this is a really strong ordinance, a really good ordinance. And I just hope that when we message it, if we put it on the billboards, whatever we do, we remind people that driving is a privilege. My suspicion is a good percentage of the people that we'd come into contact that are behind the wheel probably already have their licenses suspended. I don't have any data on that, but just hearing what I've heard and knowing what I know. So this is not someone who just shows up and says, I'm going to learn how to spin my wheels today. These are planned events. The data you gave us about guns is very concerning. I think we have a moral obligation as a council to pass this ordinance to try and keep our community safer and help everyone who's complaining about sideshow, which seems to be the thorn in many people's sides these days. Also, I want to echo Councilmember Bowen's comment about great gratitude to Reset for the work that they're doing and the education that they're doing of the public. I've run into people who say, what's going on? And they've been able to educate them. And people are like, oh, that's all. Bravo, bravo. Let's keep that going. So thank you, Chief, for your work on this. And please thank the people that are involved too.
Councilmember Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. And in the definition of spectator, I just want to make sure that we're using this to not criminalize their folks who are, who get stuck in this type of activity. And so we just need to be cautious because we just don't want to have, we don't want to be litigious in that sense. And, there were times where, I have nowhere to go but stay put, and I'm stuck. I cannot vacate my car because I'm in fear of getting attacked. And also there's times where I need to record for my own safety. So I think in that sense, we just need to be cautious in what we know, how we utilize this, and remove. Like, and Balloon had mentioned that he said take out video recording, and I think this is I think this ordinance is fine as it is in that sense, but I just think we need to take proper precautions in what we do in order to cite folks that are participating in driving and driving recklessly in this sense, but also making sure that we protect those who are accidentally caught up in this nonsense. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Azevedo, please.
Yes, I would like to move this item. But first of all, I want to say I agree with Councilmember Aguilar. I've been caught in a sideshow on the Bay Bridge, and I just wanted to get out of there. When you're on the Bay Bridge, you're stuck. So yeah, so that's my point. But yeah, I want to move this item.
Okay. So at this point in time, I will make my comments quickly. I think that the notion of aligning regionally is very important. So now I've got Councilmember Bowen. We'll come to you.
Sorry, Mayor, I was just going to second that, but I will also do that after your comments.
Thank you. So I think the importance of a regional approach to law enforcement is quite important. I think that when I have met with mayors and council members from other cities, it is the questions, the concerns are consistent regionally. Folks are tired of what's going on, and there's uniformity among council members and the various elected officials that we need to take action. So I'm super proud that we're taking action so that we can be clearly aligned. It supports the efforts of Reset. Reset is having an impact. And so thank you for what you've done to bring this forward. I do think that some interesting concerns and valid concerns have been raised today. So I'm actually going to look down my council line, because I think, part of what we do here in these discussions is we establish legislative intent. And I think that part of what I'm hearing from you in your presentation, what I've heard from city attorney, what I've heard from my council members, is that the purpose of this legislation is not to impact individuals who are caught up because they literally cannot move. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that the purpose of this legislation is not to impede individuals recording because they themselves feel like they want to help our police force in identifying vehicles and individuals involved in this. Is that correct? Okay. And so I'm going to look down the council and just make sure through some head nods and fingers that we're all aligned from a legislative intent perspective. And then the last thought that I'll ask is that I know that during rules, we talked about this notion of, asking people to disperse, and that our objective isn't simply to try to throw a net around 300 people, but they're really trying to get to the heart of the individuals who are driving the social media behavior, who are creating the greatest danger for individuals that are in closest proximity. And at least that's my understanding of what we're trying to do. And I'd like to hear that is in fact the case.
Also correct.
Okay. So with that, I've got a motion from Councilmember Azevedo. I've got a second from Councilmember Bowen. We've taken public comment on the item. I'm sorry. There's another comment from Councilmember Azevedo.
Yes, I think with regard to recording, if it's put on social media, then it should be a crime, So if they're recording and it's not to report it, but they are to put it, but the judgment of that will be, but if we see it on social media, but that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, so we've got a motion from Councilmember Azevedo to adopt. What is it? It's a motion to approve the first reading. What's the technical term here? Let me get to my notes. So we've got a motion from Councilmember Azevedo, a second from Councilmember Bowen to approve this item. Let's vote, please. Oh. Okay, can you punch in? There you go. Councilmember?
Does this include the recording or not the recording?
It does not include the recording. It is exactly as presented. Please vote.
Councilmember Bowen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Simon,
Yes.
all votes are in. Motion passes 7-0. Vice Mayor Simon, yes. Councilmember Baloo, yes. Councilmember Bowen, yes. Councilmember Aguilar, yes. Councilmember Azevedo, yes. Councilmember Viveros Walton, yes. And Mayor Gonzalez, yes.
At this point in time, we'll take item 13D, but as you, thank you. 13D, as you will recall, was moved to the top. That was the appointment of Christian to the Youth Advisory Council. So let's move to item 14, council request to schedule agenda items. Do we have any tonight? Okay, seeing none, I'll move to item 15, which also includes item 11. So this is the opportunity for council members to make announcements, calendar announcements, invitations for the community, talk about items of interest to the community, and we will we'll be generous with time here if we need it. Thank you for your patience as we've consolidated these items. I'll begin with Councilmember Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. On Thursday, March 28th, I virtually met with the Victory Institute and the National League of Cities LGBTQ aides to assist in planning a LGBTQ NLC conference alongside with Victory in December. So we're currently planning that. That'll be the first of its kind, where NLC's constituency group host a few panel discussions in Washington, D.C. And, Victory Institute is the other International Leaders Conference the first weekend of December. And I participate in that every year. And a lot of folks do also, a lot of folks from our community, especially internationally, attend this event. And we'll be focusing day where we discuss, we'll discuss policy, have panel discussions with municipal leaders throughout the nation and those who are like to attend internationally. And some of the topics we're discussing LGBTQ, affordable housing, which the city of San Francisco is doing, and with regards to other various topics with regards to anti-discrimination policies and polyamory policies to support non-discrimination. So that is something I'm looking forward to. And I do have a LGBTQ constituency group meeting on Friday, April 4th. Actually, Friday, April 5th. That's my update. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Viveros Walton, please.
Thank you. Just a reminder to the community that the farmers market opens tomorrow. We'll be tomorrow, Wednesday, April 3rd, begins at 5:30 at the main library at 300 STDU Avenue. Looking forward to seeing the community out there. I also wanted, I am part of the state of California's Cradle to Career data system. It is the mission of the Cradle to Career data system is to be a source of actionable data in research on education, economic, and health outcomes for individuals in California, and to expand access to tools and services to navigate the education to employment pipeline. There's a lot of components around economic development, employment data, and I'm part of the Community Engagement Advisory Board as part of I was a state appointed official on this, but I really look forward to bringing in a local government perspective into this data, into this Cradle to Career data system. So just wanted to let y'all know that I'm part of that state board, and that those are all my comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Baloo, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Three quick items. I want to report that last week I had the pleasure of attending the East Bay Innovation Awards with you and city manager and our amazing community development, economic development staff to support two businesses in town that were finalists in their competition, Kuberg and Tarani. They both finished top two. That was awesome. And Tarani actually won the competition. Really a great time, great dinner, good time to do some socializing and also some celebrating of the good things going on in our city. Also, I want to point out, spring is here. We're known as one of the monarch roosting sites for monarch butterflies. And this Saturday morning, volunteer help is needed at the Butterfly Garden across from San Leandro BART at San Leandro Boulevard and West Estadillo. This spring is here. It's been a lot of rain, been a lot of sun. And so that combination has caused the weeds to really grow, and they need volunteers to come out and help with that if you can. Anyone in the community can show up. They're welcome, including kids, and probably should bring your own gardening tools if you have them. But if not, Larry Holes, who kind of takes care of that, will have some for us. The third item has to do with scheduling in the future, and I apologize, but I have a very robust conflict coming up in May and June. May 13th, I'll have to attend remotely, if at all. I have a family commitment in Orlando near a mouse house. And then June 10th, if there's a work session, I'm not sure if there's one planned, I'll have to attend remotely because I have a work conflict. And June 17th, I have a family conflict. I will also have to attend remotely well, that'll be a regular meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So the event, East Bay Innovation Awards, was a very powerful event in San Leandro. We're a city where kindness matters and innovation flourishes, and to see two of our companies recognized was pretty powerful stuff. So congratulations to them. I did have the opportunity to meet with other companies recently, one of them being Vantage Robotics, who actually makes drones that are used by a number of government agencies. And they're right here in San Leandro, California. They're moving over to Bayfair to be part of the tech campus that we're building out as we re-envision the whole Bayfair area. It's also excited to be at the Employee Service Awards to see so many employees that have had longstanding commitment to our city, have delivered great service for many, many years. It's just really heartwarming. And to see just a room full of excited people smiling and laughing and having a good time. In terms of announcements for future events, thank you for picking up things like the Butterfly Garden, et cetera. I'll highlight two in particular for my council. A reminder that the Alameda County mayors are coming to San Leandro on April 10th. And know that you're welcome to attend that meeting. So that's next Wednesday. And the state of the city will be April 23rd at the Marina Community Center. We'll remind folks that's a Tuesday. We'll remind folks between now and then, Marina Community Center, doors open at 6. The event begins formally at 6:30. With that, seeing no other hands, there's a hand, Councilmember Bowen, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I was also at the East Bay Innovations Award and just wanted to echo what what Councilmember Baloo and the mayor mentioned. I also attended the March 21st LEA meeting, and there are a lot of exciting events coming up. We also did a recap of the presentation that Morgan McRose, Executive Director, gave to us at the last council meeting. And then I also wanted to note that I did attend the last senior commission meeting, and Councilmember Azevedo was there as well. And I just want to encourage the public and the council as well to attend the commission meetings, because they're incredibly insightful and really does give you a good understanding of what the community is thinking about and caring about. And also, I think the commissioners really appreciate it as well. And I just want to give a shout out to them for the work that they do. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. So there was one other thing that I forgot, and I know many of us were there last week. I attended the Taste of San Leandro.
Yeah,
which was amazing to see a lot of our vendors participate, a lot of our businesses, and see a lot of our organizations come together and celebrate at 21st Amendment. So it was a great event, very well attended, and the mayor was there. City Manager Roboselli, Assistant City Manager Cameron. So it was a wonderful event.
Thank you really to the many sponsors. Those are a robust set of sponsors that also supported the event. And as for the public that may not know, that's funds that are raised go to promote leadership development in our city for residents to participate at a subsidized rate in leadership development programs. And a number of the participants of Leadership San Leandro have gone on to become commissioners in our city, council members, and the like. So thank you, Leadership San Leandro, for what you do, for the efforts that went into that, and to all the sponsors that came together. Okay, so with that, I think we'll move to adjournment, and it is 8:58, and we are adjourned.